Hello, my name's David Warr and I'm the owner of a company called Cooper's Tea and Coffee, and we're based in the wonderful island of Jersey in the Channel Islands. Today I want to talk about the AeroPress. Now, making a lot of news these days because it's the in thing and a simple way to make coffee. Now, what's interesting about the AeroPress is it's a hybrid way of making coffee. It's halfway between a filter coffee and an espresso. The filter coffee bit is where you infuse the coffee. The espresso bit is where we push the plunger down to force the water through the coffee. So we have this interesting mix. As a result, we get quite an interesting selection of flavors, which we maybe wouldn't get from other alternative ways of making coffee. So the first thing we do with the AeroPress is we unscrew the base here. The base takes a filter paper. The filter paper is used to stop the coffee from going into your drink. Now, one little thing we have to do with the filter paper is we need to wet it. Now, great believer in saving time, so why not just wet the filter paper and warm your coffee cup at the same time? Just pour a little bit of water through the filter, and that will immediately drain into the coffee cup. One wet filter paper, one nicely warmed cup. The next thing we need to do is add the coffee. Now, the coffee I've selected today is some Thai coffee. It's from an interesting cooperative called Doi Chang. Lots of things to know about coffee. Well, the first thing I would say is I would always choose a medium roasted coffee. Nothing too heavy. We want to get nice caramel notes out of it, and with slightly lower water temperatures, I think we really get good taste. Darker roasted coffees, not quite so good on the extraction. It's a peaberry, in this case, a whole bean, and it's what we call semi-washed. In other words, it has some of the mucilage left in the coffee, which gives you extra caramel sweetness. So for this purposes here, I'm going to use 2 level scoops of coffee. We're going to make a fairly short cup of coffee. I want to get that nice intense flavor coming through in the drink. Now what we do is we pour our hot water up to the first measure on here, and then we wait for about 10 seconds to what we call pre-infuse the coffee. So be careful when you do pour the water on the coffee that you cover the coffee as much as you can. Clearly, if the coffee is still dry, it's not infusing the flavors. So we'll get up to about there, and we'll just leave that for a second or two. At this point, we don't stir the coffee or agitate the coffee. We'll do that in the second phase. So you can see it's already starting to drip through, but quite slowly because there's no pressure on the water to be forced through the coffee. And then we go to the second phase of water, and that is we move up to measure 2 on your AeroPress. Just already getting a fantastic aroma just sitting here. Isn't it a shame there isn't smelly vision around here? Yeah, lovely notes of the coffee coming through. The next small job to do is we agitate the coffee. So we'll just give that a gentle agitation. Interestingly, some people would say you shouldn't touch it, other people say agitate. I don't know that you'd notice the difference, but maybe that's something you can experiment with at home. Now we place the plunging device on top of the AeroPress, just taking care that when you actually push it into the AeroPress, you don't tip everything over. You want a fairly stable surface for this. You are going to feel a bit of resistance because obviously the coffee in here is quite fine. So now we're going to plunge down with a little bit of extra weight onto the liquid. And you see the water's now starting to go through the coffee as we do that. But again, just be gentle. Don't get too over anxious about the water going through the coffee very quickly. And in fact, you don't even have to really plunge the plunger all the way down to the coffee. Once you can see that the coffee on the top is dry, you're pretty much done. Now, if you don't want your coffee to be too intense, you can at this point add a little bit more water. Personally, I'm going to take a quick sip, I'm going to see what I get and see how the taste looks. Yeah, the Doi Chang has this wonderful fruitiness to the coffee. And it's just a very gentle, pleasant strength. That's the other thing I would say about this coffee. Next thing I'm going to suggest to you is that you look at what patisserie you might like to have with this coffee. Now, if we lengthen it out, just very gently here, we just soften the taste down. So we're not running too much water through the coffee, we're just softening out those flavors. The other little thing which helps this is that the water temperature is slightly lower than it would be maybe for espresso for filter. We normally operate around 90 odd degrees, say 92 degrees centigrade. I would say by the time the water's finished going through the AeroPress, it's around 80 degrees. And that seems to give you a much more gentle feel, much gentler taste to the coffee. So I'll just have another quick slip. It's terrible. When you get used to the taste of this, you just can't stop drinking it. Yep, softer taste, just slightly mellower. And of course, let's go on to the patisserie. And the patisserie I have in front of me here is, again, a little bit of all the rage at the moment. It's a duffin. It's that cross between a muffin and a donut. You can see the kind of donut mix on the outside, and there's a muffin in the middle and a little bit of jam right in the very, very center. That lovely sugaryness on the outside, which will quickly coat your mouth, goes brilliantly well with this style of coffee. For more information and to read my blog, go to our website at www.cooper.co.je, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel.